What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. We are here with a surprise live stream. I didn't really tell you guys about it, so it's a surprise to you. Nick and I kind of knew it was happening, I guess, but
Kind of.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it was a little cobbled together at the last minute ish. But yeah, we are going to be
Scheduling has
talking.
been difficult.
Scheduling has been difficult, and that's worth talking about a little bit because we're obviously a little late to the party talking about the finale here. There's been plenty of YouTubers that have said their piece about it, but we're gonna talk about
We
it
gave it a
today
week to
because
stew.
yeah, exactly. That's what we were doing. Thanks, Nick. Um, um, Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the finale for The Last of Us on HBO tonight, season 2, of course. And the plan was to kind of talk about episodes 5, 6, and 7. But we don't want to be here all night. You don't want to be here all night. So we're going to brush on those. We're going to talk about those briefly. And obviously briefly for us is never really briefly, but we're gonna try, okay? So
We're gonna boil those two episodes down because those are the only two we haven't talked about prior to the finale. So we'll boil them
right,
down to their most important
essential
parts, I
moments.
guess.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, mostly we'll be talking about the finale. um Links are down in the description. I will make sure I get Nick's links down there. I don't think I did prior to this, but I'll make sure they're down there if
We're
you're seeing
cobbling it
this
together.
later.
We're
Cobbling
flying
it
by the seat
together.
of our pants. See, this is how my podcast operates. We fly by
Right.
the seat of our pants on a weekly basis.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Yeah, so links are all down there. You guys know Discord, Patreon, Twitter, all that stuff. If you want to help support us or help support Nick's podcast, the 4-Player Podcast, then definitely go check that out. If you like video games, if you're here because you've played The Last of Us and you're really into video games, go check out his podcast, the 4-Player Podcast, like it says in his name there. I watch it whenever I get the chance to. It's a great podcast to listen to.
very,
For
very
all of
kind
your
of you to say.
Oh yeah, I really do love your podcast. I listen to it whenever I get the chance. Because you guys do a good mix of I feel like a lot of YouTube channels either only do reviews or they
Mm-hmm.
only do gaming news.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys do a really good blend of talking about like the most recent like things that have kind of popped up, but
Yeah,
also talking about games you played.
it's been a lot of experimentation over the years because at one point we tried to we got to cover all the news. Then we'd spend like
Right.
an hour and a half talking about news,
Yeah.
and then it was like we have no energy left to talk about what we've been playing and stuff.
Yeah.
So eventually it just got to the point where it's like we're gonna cover the big important things.
Yeah.
Like we're a small podcast. We don't need to hit every tiny
Sure.
headline, that kind of thing. But yeah,
Right.
big
Do you,
news, impressions, all that stuff. So
do you guys all kind of pick a topic?
we used to be a lot more organized in terms of like having a show plan before we showed up, but then people got had kids and all this
Yeah.
stuff. So at this point, it's just like on the day of the show, it's like, hey, what y'all been playing?
Right.
Cool. Who's gonna capture footage of that? You got it? Cool. And then we show up, we throw the footage on the screen, and we just talk about our thoughts.
Yeah, we're gonna get to The Last of Us, but I am always impressed by you guys bringing footage on screen because I'm like, I don't think I have that in me. Like, I'd have to play so much of the game and then capture that footage and then edit it down into like a reel.
See, the good thing is the days are gone where we felt like we had it in us to like edit the footage.
Okay.
I've been playing it during the week, so it's like you're playing a game.
Yeah.
I'll just like hit record while I'm playing this game, and I set aside like 20 minutes of footage, and then no matter how good or bad it is, that's what we put up on the screen. Which can be torturous. Because sometimes we'll be playing a game and be like, this makes me look like an absolute failure, just like the worst. Like I've never touched a gaming controller in my life.
Just
And then
spending
other
like
times
30 minutes in the menu, like
times where it's like I'll get like 20 minutes of footage and then I'll do like the stupidest fucking thing you could imagine and be like, no, I can't let anybody see this. I scrap the thing and I hit record again.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Something I was thinking about was in the intro that we put up for these live streams, one of the shows that I have in the intro is Euphoria, because that's a show that Gabe and I are really into. I
have not seen it yet.
Headphone has decided to die.
That happens to me all the time.
Oh, I can't hear you. Hang on.
All right. Well, I'll just let's see. Off the cuff, Euphoria. Haven't seen
Talk
it.
again.
Okay, hello, testing. I like Sydney Sweeney. Testing.
Oh, fuck me.
He doesn't even know.
Really.
Let's see. Yeah, I haven't watched Euphoria yet, so I don't really have much to say about it. Gotta love audio hiccups during a live podcast. It happened to us last week, actually.
Oh, there we go.
You good? You back?
Yeah. Okay.
I've been doing a piss poor job of vamping, but I've never seen Euphoria, so I was just like, I like Sydney Sweeney, and I like and I like Zendaya. That's all I can say about it.
Oh, okay. So you've never seen Euphoria?
No, I have. It's one of those shows that looks like I'd probably be really into it, but it also strikes me as something that's like probably really. It seems like the kind of show that would give me anxiety, which is weird.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's weird considering how much I'm into like dramas and I love stuff like The Last of Us and Dexter, which are anxiety-inducing in their own ways.
I mean,
something about Euphoria and like the reality of like, because it has a lot to do with like drugs, right, and like making terrible life choices. Maybe
you would think that it's a lot about drugs, but mostly it's about like high school drama, but in like a brutal way, like covering like really, really, really adult topics. And so
that sounds stressful, but I mean, not so stressful that I don't want to watch it. It's been like on my. I know they're making season 3 right now, and it's like maybe I'll wait until season 3 and then I'll like blow through it.
Yeah, you should, because it is one hell of a show. Like it is incredible. I thought for sure you would have seen it. That's really surprising that you haven't watched it.
I will one day. It's one of those shows that I know I'll like and know that I'll get to it, but I just haven't.
Yeah,
haven't done it yet.
That's me with what's the one about the detective? Oh Jesus Christ!
True Detective.
True Detective. Thank you.
Really? Was that really it? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
That's it.
That's funny. I didn't think I was gonna get that right. Uh-oh, I hear myself.
I know. Sorry guys. Give me 1 second. I gotta reset my mic.
Man, what should I tell them about True Detective?
Oh, hang on. Have I completely lost you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Dang it. I was like, I don't know, this mic is being weird. I got to replace the cord. This cord, if you move it just the slightest amount, it does all sorts of crazy things. And I have a new cord. I've just been too lazy to my cord is like routed through all these things.
Gotcha.
So anyway, yeah, True Detective. Have you seen that?
I have, yeah.
It's a
good series. It is a good series it's an anthology series, so every season's different. But great series. It has like incredible highs and kind of boring lows. I don't know.
Okay.
But I still recommend it. Like,
yeah, that's one of those shows that's like on my shelf. Like I need to get to that at some point. But Euphoria, very surprised you haven't seen it. It's a very good show, and it's on our title card because we've covered. I think it was season 2 is what we did on the channel here, and I was just about to ask you and everybody else. I'm like, where the hell is season 3? Because it's been like years, but it's been years. Are they filming it now?
Yeah, they're filming it now. It's I think they're filming it now. At the very least, if they haven't started filming, then it's like in pre-production or something. But like I know it's coming.
Okay.
In fact, I saw like Zendaya is actively talking about it, and I think Sydney Sweeney has said a couple things about it. So like, and I think I saw something the other day. It said it's coming next year. So I don't follow it nearly as closely because I haven't watched it yet. But I do see it pop up, and I do know it's coming.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just wondering where the hell that show was at because I was wondering about that the other day, and I was like, when was season 2? And I went back and looked, and it was like 3 years ago.
Hey, waiting a couple of years between seasons is not unusual these days.
I know.
The wait between season 1 and 2 of Severance was almost 3 years. Last 1 to 2 was 2 years. It's going to be another 1.5 to 2 years for between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
On The Last of Us. It's not unusual. We can't all be Dexter, where they actually stick to their like.
Yeah, where they're just like, let's give them 2 shows in 1 year.
To be fair, I feel like Dexter is probably a much, like logistically speaking, is probably a much easier show to film than something like The Last of Us, where you have to make every scene look post-apocalyptic and like you have to put all these people in makeup. I don't know why it took 3 years for Euphoria. I mean, I think that had more to do with like scheduling with like the actors and stuff, which is also part of every production. So it's just there's so many
because they all blew up. Like Zendaya was a nobody when Euphoria started. Sydney Sweeney was a nobody. Changed. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Now she's marrying Tom Holland.
Yeah.
What's up, Samwise? How's it going, man? Okay, so let's talk about The Last of Us. Let's go into it. Having watched the finale and taking episodes 5 and 6 into consideration, what are your thoughts on this last third?
That's a crazy place to start.
What?
What are your thoughts? Just
like your general thoughts. Do you feel like it stuck the landing, or?
I think if you take any one of the components that make up this part of the story that they're telling, I would say that they stuck the landing. But I also feel like the inevitable has happened. And this is, I think, just a byproduct of the kind of story it is and the way the story is told in the game versus telling that story for a TV show. They didn't skew as wildly from that structure as I thought they were going to. And to be honest, I never really knew how they were going to skew from it, because it like part of what makes the story, I think, so great, in my opinion, is the way it's told. And I was nervous that they would have to change it, but it turns out they were like, no, we're going to be pretty faithful to it. We're going to tell Ellie's day 1, 2, and 3.
Interesting.
And there's going to be the stop, and then they're going to tell Abby's day 1, 2, and 3, and that's the story. And the fact that they decided to do that makes me feel like season 2, and this is going to be a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, especially people who don't know what happens, or people who are not gamers or whatever. They're just watching the thing. It feels incomplete. It feels you've basically watched half of a, and that's not unusual. I mean, like, it's not unusual. Obviously, TV shows are like that often. Like, a lot of seasons end on cliffhangers and whatever. But like, typically speaking, a successful season of a television show can like stand on its own.
Right.
And I don't think that's the case here, because I mean, it makes sense where they decided to cut it off to me. Between season 2 and 3, but those are two sides of the same coin, and having to wait a 1.5 years or more to see the other side of that coin is going to be rough for people, for audiences.
To go all the way back to the beginning and then go through it all again.
And like, as someone who knows the story, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm still very excited because I love the other side of that coin. And I think part of what I love about the story in general is how they play with your feelings about both of these characters dramatically, in really interesting ways. And I think they did that with Ellie, and they're going to do that with Abby, but people only saw one side of that.
Right.
And at this point, they're still pissed at Abby. They don't know what's happened after it cuts to black. that a lot of people I've talking to my wife who has coworkers that have never played the game, and she's talking to them on a weekly basis. There seems to be a lot of like just general like confusion about who the WLF are and what's going on with the Seraphites, and like that's a huge
they
part
didn't
of the
explain
story.
that very well.
But like and that again, I think that's a byproduct of how faithful they're being to the game, because when you're playing as Ellie, you don't see
know
that side of it. You are supposed to be confused about who these people are and what they are doing. The thing is, in the game, when the thing at the end happens and it cuts to black, you're supposed to be like, oh my god. And then boom, it starts right back up, and it's like throws you into it, and you're like, oh, okay. And you're on your way to finding out what happens. And you eventually kind of like, okay, this is going to lead back to that moment.
Right.
And you're on the hook.
Right.
Here, you're just like, well, I guess I got to wait 2 years to find out what the fuck
this
is all about. Unless you really, really want to go out on the internet and look up the spoilers, because they're out there, obviously.
Right. Yeah, they're out there. I really, 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 really don't think it works for a show. I would bet you, I would be comfortable betting you $100 that the show viewership absolutely tanks on the next season.
That's possible. I can see it.
I think it is. I to like a detrimental extent. I think that it's going to tank hard, because I was really. Yeah, it depends on how Caitlin portrays Abby, but
I think regardless of whether she does well or not as Abby, which I do think she's going to do well as Abby, but
I do too.
I think season 3 is just going to be a tougher sell.
Yeah,
for audiences.
Yeah, because what I was hoping they would do is play their timelines in synchronicity with each other. And maybe we don't get all the way to that moment at the theater where the finale left us.
Like do an Ellie episode and an Abby episode and an Ellie episode and an Abby episode? Like that kind of thing? Where
not even that, but like, in a normal show, you get different POVs. You see what this character is doing. Then you pop over here and you see what this character is doing. I thought they were going to do that. And I think that would have worked significantly better. Obviously, it's different than the game. And I'm usually an advocate for sticking exactly to the source material. But I think in this particular situation, I don't see how it works. I really...
The only reason I think it's going to struggle is because of the wait between season 2 and 3. You're asking people to get really upset about what happens at the end of season 2 and then hold that resentment for 2 years and then say, all right, and then show back up, and suddenly you're in the POV of a completely different character that at that point for the past 2 years they've been stewing in hatred for.
I think the reason it loses viewership is that in season 1 you're following it for Pedro Pascal. You're there for Joel. You may like Ellie, but Joel is arguably the main character, and most people are there for him. Most people love Pedro Pascal, right?
Yeah.
When you get into season 2, obviously he's not there as much in the beginning. It makes it clear right from the beginning that this is an Ellie-focused POV that you're following.
Yes. It is Ellie's story almost.
Yeah, it's Ellie
and Abby's story, but the season is Ellie's story. Yeah,
right. So he's already not there that much, and then just a couple episodes in, he dies, and you see a lot of people being like, "Oh, well, I'm kind of done with the show at this point." But even the people that stuck around for Ellie, like, Ellie still isn't their favorite character. They may like Ellie, but they were there for Pedro. Then when you get to the end of this season, it's like, oh, now we're not even going to have Ellie anymore. Now it's all going to be Abby's story. Like, why am I still here? And
I would say this. To the people who maybe are not who are like not big fans of Ellie in the show, switching POVs to Abby is probably
could be a selling point.
the other thing I will say, and here's the thing, viewership, this happens a lot, and this is a story just in generally speaking that takes a lot of risks. It did in the game, it's doing it obviously again in the show, and I think this is always going to be a show where viewership kind of like it's like a roller coaster. It's going to fluctuate. I don't think it's going to fluctuate so badly that like suddenly it's not a successful show, especially if they start if they come out of the gate strong and like critical reception is really, really good and word of mouth. Like if the first episode solely featuring Abby kind of has to stick the landing. They have to do some significant shit and they have to get you on the hook with Abby very quickly.
It's the Dexter season 1 situation, right? Like our job is to make you like Dexter from the first like 5 minutes of the episode. We have to get you on Dexter's side.
But the tricky thing here is like in the case of Dexter, he didn't
He's a new
murder a fan favorite
beloved
character.
Friend.
And Dexter, it's just like he's killing a child molester. It's like everybody can get on board with that.
Right.
But yeah, it's a similar situation. You have to like show why audiences should care about Abby.
Yeah.
Very, very, very upfront. And they probably have to go big with like action and set pieces and stuff, because some of the stuff that happened. I would say this to people who haven't played the game or whatever. And I love the game. In fact, I was playing the game about 2 hours ago.
Oh, nice.
I'm still doing a replay. I'm still very early. I'm like at the radio station. The TV station with Ellie. But it's one of my favorite games of all time. Almost all of my favorite moments from the game come from Abby's side of the story.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I think people, it's like a forest, seeing the forest before the trees, or trees before the forest. Whatever that saying is.
Seeing the forest through the trees.
Yes. Situation. I think everybody right now is just so kind of raw from what just happened.
Yeah.
And obviously what Abby did to Joel. Maybe a couple of years wait will be enough time for people to kind of like get over a little bit of that.
Sure.
Which obviously people who played the game didn't really have that luxury. It's just kind of like, okay, we're just going forward with this.
Yep.
But they do some really great things with Abby's character, and
they do.
And they drop some really clever like hints in the finale of like what to kind of expect from Abby's side of the story. Like you can see that rope burn on her neck.
Oh yeah.
Like there are little details. There's characters we haven't met yet that are so good, that are there. Because like if you remember back to the way in season 1, obviously everybody loves Pedro Pascal. And maybe that was honestly like detrimental to some extent.
Yeah.
To the character, to the show, because everybody had already had a very positive view of Pedro Pascal going in, not just Joel, but like Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Yeah.
But like Pedro, like think about it. After his daughter dies at the beginning, for the first however long in that season, he's a dick. Like he's a complete asshole. And it isn't until Ellie starts to kind of like crack that shell that people start to like come around on Joel.
Yeah.
But I think maybe people were already coming around because like, oh my God, Pedro Pascal is so dreamy.
Right.
Which I get. I totally get it.
Right.
But like there's a similar dynamic going on with Abby that nobody who hasn't played the game knows is coming, that I think is going to be worthwhile. And I'm so excited to see it play out on screen. And I think the really cool thing when it's all said and done will be to kind of like, if you watch season 2 and 3 back to back and see the pieces fit together.
Yeah.
That's kind of the magic of it. Like
right.
In the game, like there's literally moments where it's like you're playing as Ellie and you see something happen and you don't know what it means. And then you play as Abby later and you're like, oh, that's the thing that I fucking saw.
Right.
But I didn't know what the fuck it was.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And it's like, that shit is cool.
Yeah.
And some of the coolest set pieces and stuff, like we're gonna go to B3 of the hospital. Like, there's some cool shit coming in season 3. And I think once people if the critical reception is positive, right, people will start to like the people who are open-minded will start to come back, and the people who aren't open-minded or just don't want to, whatever, that's totally fine. But like, yeah, viewership's going to be weird.
Yeah,
for the show, it was always going to be weird.
Yeah, they definitely. I mean, those first couple episodes of season 3 have to be perfect. Like they have to like knock it out of the park, and I hope they do. I hope they do.
You're going to get a lot of Isaac. You're going to get a much better look at the Seraphites. You're going to get to see a lot more of what's going on between the WLF and the Seraphites and how that relates to Abby. You're going to learn a lot more about Abby very quickly.
Yeah.
And her whole group, like, cause her whole group kind of becomes like, is going to be kind of like the main characters of that season. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Those are my general thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. So my last, I've kind of been talking about my general thoughts already, but my last one here is I really wonder what the new audience, I wonder like how they think about, or I wonder if they know what they're supposed to feel towards Ellie, because one thing that I was hoping the finale would give me is like, oh, here's the moment where Ellie really goes crazy. But they really haven't done that with Bella Ramsey's Ellie. Like she is not the unhinged murder hobo that she is in the game. Like she's really not. Even with the Owen and Mel scene, they turned it into like an accident, not like a calculated murder.
I will say this, and I've said this a few times before, and I don't mean to sound like I'm. There is a podcast that I do recommend listening to.
Yes.
I listened to it today because I actually waited a few days to start it for the finale, and I listened to it today. And if you want to know kind of like just like whether you agree with what they did or not, if you want to like get in the room with them and see like what they were thinking and why they made certain choices, check it out, because they talked for over an hour about the finale and like specifically why they decided to make those choices. And there's a lot of really good points, one of which being to answer your kind of addresses your question directly, which is
what Craig Mason said about it.
Yeah, just in terms of how you're supposed to feel about Ellie, and the argument is that there's no right way to feel about Ellie or really anybody in the show, because the whole like overarching theme of the show and the game and the story in general is just kind of like the different ways love affects people, or like how it influences people's decisions for good and for bad, and like just how things are never black and white, which is obviously that's a bit of a trope, but like it's true.
Yeah.
And they talked a lot about kind of the Ellie, and this ties into from episode 6 where we see the flashback to Joel's dad, and Joel's dad tells him when he's younger that like, I hope you just do a little better than I did. And then Joel says the same thing to Ellie, saying, I hope when it's your turn, I hope you just do a little better than I did.
Yeah.
And they talk about how like this entire season post Joel's death, like Ellie's driving, like that's been kind of like in the back of her mind. It's like her driving force. She's basically trying to be Joel. She's trying to live up to Joel.
Right.
And every single opportunity she gets where it's like, now's your chance to like be Joel, she fails.
Yeah.
And they talk about that scene with Mel and how she's sitting there bleeding out on the floor, and she's asking Ellie to cut her baby out of her stomach, and she doesn't know what to do. She like kind of just like reverts into like a scared child, and it's like, I don't know what to fucking do, and she's just panicking. And she's like, if it was Joel in that situation, who was a parent who's already lost a child, he would just like pull up his sleeves and fucking go in.
Sure.
He'd be like, well, I guess I'm doing this. And he would just get into the weeds and do what has to be done, even if he doesn't know if he can pull it off. And Ellie had her chance to do it and
failed.
She fails.
Yeah.
So like they talk about like moments throughout the season where it's like she has this opportunity. She's trying to live up to Joel's legacy or what Joel taught her, and every time she tries, she flubs it.
Right.
So that scene with Mel is very different. That was very intentional, making it different. Some may like it, some may not. I don't even really know how I feel about it, other than it's different.
Yeah.
And the murder hobo thing, which you're right, she is a bit of a murder hobo in the game, and that's primarily because it's a game, and like the main mechanic, the way you interact with the world is through like violence.
Well, I understand that, but more than that, I'm thinking like cutscenes. Like in cutscenes, she was vicious, and it's like that's not gameplay. That's like her as a character. And
I mean, she goes to town on Nora.
Yeah,
which is pretty murder hobo behavior. And my headset just decided to turn itself off.
Oh, you're okay. You're okay. Can you hear me?
I can. Sorry. That was
okay. No, you're fine.
I was gonna do it, and then it just decides to do it.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I think I don't know. I really and Craig Mazin said something about the Owen and Mel death scene. He said that we were afraid that if we had her struggle with the gun with Owen on the ground like they do in the game, people wouldn't believe that this little 5'0" girl could take down this 6 tall guy. And I get the argument because people talk about that kind of stuff online all the time. And I think some of those, not all of them, some of them are done in bad faith, but some of them are worth talking about. Like, how did this tiny woman, like,
I mean, that was like the whole driving force of why they decided to show that scene where she was like learning jujitsu at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like Ellie, she may be smaller, but she uses her knife with wild abandon and is just like sneaky and scrappy. And so it's like, I get it, but like, that's how it was in the game. So like, why change it from the game? It's not like you're making a new show and you're trying to decide like, okay, well, she wouldn't really be able to defeat this guy because he's like huge or whatever, but it's like the game already did it. So I guess I was a little...
I mean, Ellie in the game, if we just talk semantics right now, I mean, Ellie in the game has a very different build than Bella Ramsey. That's
sure.
Sure.
She's like taller.
Yeah, she's taller. She's more muscular. She's not quite built like a tank like Abby in the game.
Right.
But she's definitely maybe a little bit more physically
capable.
Yeah, capable. It's a good word.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that influenced that decision, because there's also like something to be said about how much do you want the audience to like turn on Ellie.
So that was the other thing he said in that exact article was that he's like, I forget exactly how it was phrased, but basically he was alluding to that exact idea. Like, we were afraid, like, we didn't want the audience to see Ellie in this light and see her as this like unhinged person. And it's like, but that's the whole point of the character. That's like the whole point.
I think they just find other ways to kind of show that. They like, the big one for me being the moment she has this like, she kind of gives in and accepts like, okay, we got to go home. We got to get Tommy and we got to go home. And then she follows Jesse out to go find Tommy so they can get him, bring him back to the theater, and they can all get Dina home because she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And then there's a
fork in the road.
Yeah, there's a fork in the road. The moment where everything falls into place, it clicks, and she realizes she knows where Abby is. She just completely relapses and just like, no, forget Tommy. I know where she is, and I'm going for it. And
yeah,
it's not quite the same thing as I'm going to murder hundreds of people just to get which, that in and of itself probably would have been a harder pill to swallow for audiences, like watching Bella Ramsey like take out an army of dudes.
Right.
But I think it's just we're watching her kind of like struggle to do what is best for Dina and Jesse and Jackson and the unborn child, and do the thing that she came to do. And like going back to when I think it was episode 5 when she's talking to Dina, and after Dina tells her that she's pregnant, and they're talking, she's like, we can go, I can take you back, I will turn around right now and I will take you back to Jackson. And then she follows it up with, and then I'll come right back here.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not the same level, it's not murder hobo level. But it is nothing is going to stop me from doing the thing that I said I was going to do. I'm just going to I will offload my burden. She doesn't use the word burden in the show, but she does in the game. It's actually that was another thing people kind of pointed out, is like she didn't call her a fucking burden in the show. Which that's fine. I can't imagine calling Isabel Merced a burden. She's so nice.
I get it, and there's, I don't know. I was just so looking forward to, because I was telling everybody, I was telling my mom, I was like, just wait till you get to season 2. You're gonna see Ellie do some dark shit, and I just feel like
she does do some dark shit, just not as much.
Yeah,
the Nora thing is supposed to be pretty dark.
Yeah.
In fact, I will say this right now, if you want to just talk general thoughts, I think my favorite episode of the season is 5. Is it 5?
Is that
it's the one where they get cornered by the stalkers, and then and then they go into the park and they see the Seraphite gut the dude, and then and then Dina gets shot with the arrow, and then she fucking takes that opportunity to book it towards Nora, which was another moment where she had she could go with Jesse and Dina and go back to the theater, and probably that would be the end of it.
Right.
Or she could separate from them and go after Nora, and that's exactly what she does. But that whole scene, and that's where they introduce spores for the first time. That was it's such a cool episode. The stalker scene,
terrifying,
fucking amazing, terrifying, and the stalkers in the game are probably the most terrifying enemy in the game. The moment in the game where you first meet them is like burned into my brain, and now the moment where you meet them in the show equally as such. But it was a completely original scene in the show, and I thought that was great. And that was a great moment for Jesse to come into the picture. And there was it was such a cool, I think it was pretty obvious, it was on the nose, but touching on how she's being cornered by all these stalkers, and she looks up and she sees this shadowy figure coming towards her, and for a second she thinks it's Joel, but it's Jesse.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I know it's on the nose, but you could tell it's like a reminder to her that he's gone.
Yeah.
And obviously Jesse is an MVP. Jesse in the game and in the show, love him.
So good. Perfect casting. Perfect casting. Yeah, rest in peace.
I'm sure we'll see more of him. They'll find a way to show us more of him, I'm sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, and I don't want to sound super negative about season 2, because there's a lot of stuff that I really, really, really loved about it. But
no, I get it. I understand why it's divisive.
Yeah.
It is an incomplete, I feel like, I know this is impossible, but if season 2 and 3 were literally filmed back to back and released in if season 2 was just season 2 and 3 combined, I think the conversation would be much different, because you're seeing the full picture.
Yeah.
But obviously that would make it a 20 episode season, and those don't exist anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And it would probably be 2027 before we ever got a new episode of The Last of Us. So
right. Right. Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day, how seasons used to be so long.
Dude, I was watching 24.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't realize every season is 24 episodes, because every episode is an hour.
My God.
I couldn't even get through the first season. I was like, this is insane. I feel like I just spent an hour watching a show and made it nowhere.
I've never seen 24, but I always thought the concept was so insane. Like,
it's insane.
How do you have a whole episode only be 1 hour of a day?
Yeah, it means something has to happen every minute of that hour. I don't know how they did it either, and I know some people say it's great. Maybe I should have gone a little bit further, but hot damn. And I'm saying this as someone who I used to watch Buffy. I mean, I still watch Buffy, but those are long seasons. I've watched shows with long seasons before.
Yeah.
But god damn, I feel like time was moving at a standstill in that show.
Okay, so it's not fast paced.
I mean, it's supposed to be, but at the end of everything that happened, you watch an episode, crazy shit happens, and then you just think about it and you realize, because it does the ticking clock thing where it's 11 a.m. or whatever, and then the episode ends and it's 12 p.m. and it's fuck, that was only an hour.
Right. Yeah. Oh god.
And you know that it's the show is gonna the story of that season is gonna cover a 24-hour span. You're
oh my god.
There's still what the fuck.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm saying
that would
all
drive
this without
me nuts.
the full picture. I probably should have given it more of a shot, but yeah. So I get it. The pacing is important, and
that would drive me nuts. I don't think
cutting the Last of Us season. They essentially cut the game in half.
Yeah,
and it's it's gonna have an impact. Better or worse, it's gonna have an impact.
Yeah.
So I mean, I will watch it again for sure. But I can't. I'm more looking forward to the day when I can just sit down and watch season 2 and 3 back to back, without stopping.
Right. So. A couple notes from episode 5. I just want to say it's super funny because on the last episode we were like, oh, she never did the thing where they go into the theater and she goes up and turns the generator on and all that stuff. And the first scene in episode 5 is her coming down from having just done that.
Turned on the generator.
She's I got the generator on. She comes down oh, she did it. Okay.
Yeah. In the show, they're we don't need to show her turn on the generator. Nobody cares. We just sit there and have her say it. Which, attention to detail, that's
attention to detail. I was wow, they got the little generator side mission.
Yeah.
And then we see her start to play If I Ever Were to Lose You, and this is our first glimpse at this song. I'm sure we'll hear it a few more times.
Yeah. Well, Joel played it for her.
Yeah, we did. We do get Joel playing it for her.
He does that in episode 6, right? That's part of the one of the flashbacks. Okay, yeah, you're right. That is the first time then.
Yep. Any other things from episode 5?
We just talked about the stalker scene, but holy shit! I also it
about the what scene?
The stalker, the scene where that was so beautifully done, and it was terrifying. And when they look around and realize there's 20 of them, and that was one of Ellie's most heroic moments in the whole show, is because she the moment she realizes shit's bad, she's you can lock yourself in that cage over there.
They can.
And she basically said, they can bite me till the cows come home and I'll be fine as long as they don't tear me apart, kind of situation. But if you get bit, you're fucked. So that was a really cool moment. And then just to see Jesse come in and save the day, I was my wife and I were fuck yes!
Yes.
We were so into that. The reason I love this episode is because as far as Ellie's side of the game, it's together kind of 3 of the most memorable scenes for me from the game.
Yeah.
Back to back to back.
Which scenes are those?
So the stalker scene, which plays out differently in the game. In fact, it happens in a completely different location, but I still consider it a set piece in Ellie's story.
Right.
That moment, and then actually it combines 4. It's that moment. They've blended it with the scene where she's in the neighborhood and Jesse comes to her rescue sneaks up behind her and reveals himself.
Yeah.
That whole neighborhood scenario, sneaking around and taking out dudes, is just really memorable to me. But Jesse showing up there was kind of a big moment. So they combined those 2 things, and then they escape the stalker situation, and they end up in the park at night, and that's where the Seraphites are holding up the torches and whistling. And they see them gut that guy, string him up and gut him, which was fucked up and crazy.
It's horrendous.
Yeah, and then that bleeds right into the hospital where she's chasing Nora through the halls and into the basement where we get our first like real look at spores, which didn't happen in the game because in the game spores have always existed. This was like a really cool way to bring spores into the fold in the universe. That whole scene where she's like, she realizes it's in the air and she's walking around in it, and they're like in that like, it reminded me of like the alien in like in Aliens where the hive where there's people like stuck to the walls and everything. It reminded me of that, and you just see that dude who's like stuck to the wall and he's like exhaling spores into the air, and that's the son of the chick we meet at the beginning of the episode, which I thought was really cool.
The son.
Yeah, episode 5 starts. It's a flashback, or not a flashback. It shows one of the WLF leaders who's in charge of the hospital base or whatever you want to call it, and she sends her son. We don't really know it's her son at the time, but she's talking to the other person from Isaac's group, saying that she sent people down into the basement, and then they radioed back up and said it's in the air, and they had to seal the whole thing off. That's her son. She eventually reveals, "I'm sorry about your son," or whatever. So she had to make the decision to like lock her son in the basement because he radioed back and said they're in the air, and that was her son down there, like breathing the spores out, which I thought was really cool. And that whole scene is just strangely beautiful in the most fucked up way. And then that ends with her torturing Nora in the hallway, and that whole like showdown where Nora realizes that Ellie is the girl, and she's just like breathing the spores, and she's like, I'm immune. You're fucked.
Yep. Oh God, so good.
I think that was just that. Yeah, that whole episode, that was probably my favorite.
And did she do? I haven't gotten there in my replay. Did she like torture Nora the same way in the game?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really. It's kind of. I mean, basically the same thing. Like she beats her over and over and over again with the pipe or whatever.
Right.
And then it cuts away, I think. I'm going to be coming up on that here pretty soon. I can't remember if she like shoots her at the end or what, or if she just beats her to death. But it's implied in the show that she beat her and then like was trying to get information out of her about Abby. And I don't remember if that's exactly how it goes down in the game. That's why I'm looking forward to replaying the games.
Sure.
Okay. But yeah, it's more or less the same. It's just the spores thing is new, and how that kind of like ties everything together, and how it kind of like points her in the general direction of Abby.
Right. Okay. Yeah. At the end of the episode, we get a flashback with Ellie waking up to Joel coming in and saying, "Hey, kiddo." So then we get, which was a great way to end the episode,
showing her at her most murder hobo. Immediately followed by her like most innocent, like she's. I'm like teenage daughter, and this is my dad, and we're like besties. Like, kind of thing.
Yep. And it's a great lead into episode 6, because at the end of episode 5, I was like I know it's a flashback, but I'm like, what is going on? And then starting episode 6, like, oh, this is our flashback episode.
This is our Billstown episode of season 2.
Yeah. So we get to see, a young Joel and Tommy, and we talked about that a bit. And I thought that was cool because excuse me. Because we've obviously never seen a young Joel like in the game or anything. So it was cool, just new content that was really interesting.
And the actor, I apologize, I can't remember his name. The actor that they got to play Joel's dad. I love that actor. He's so good. And I was so expecting him to like be this like, because it's a flashback showing Joel like standing up to his dad just because his dad like hit Tommy, and I fully expected Joel to stand up to his dad and his dad to like start hitting him or something. But instead, his dad like kind of like melts and becomes this like, like I'm a terrible father and I apologize. And that's where the whole like, I just hope that when it's your turn, you can do better than I did. And I like that was completely original, not in the game at all.
Right.
And I think it was one of the cool, like one of the best like writing additions I think to this season.
Yeah.
And that was all. I'm pretty sure that was all Craig Mazin. Like
nice.
A lot of like the big changes are Craig Mazin. Like
yeah.
he always talks about like, I had this idea and I just called Neil and was like, all right, hear me out.
Yeah.
And Neil's like, fuck, I wish I had thought of that.
Right.
So I love that.
That's great. That's great. So other stuff from episode 6, we got to talk about Joel. I mean, there's so much great stuff in this flashback. There's a lot of good
stuff. The choice to like separate, like tell the story by like running through Ellie's birthdays in between 1 and 2, really smart. So you get to see like how she changes in a year's time, and it's all the milestones are always her birthdays.
Yeah.
And so you can it totally fills in the gap between the first season and the second.
Right. Right. Yeah. It kind of shows you what's been going on.
Yeah.
And of course that means like him making the guitar and
yeah. Oh yeah, making the guitar.
Yeah, that was great. And then like Ellie, throughout the years we see Ellie burning herself, hiding her scar. And at first Joel is like really upset, but then he understands and he like respects it. And I'm like, oh, it's so.
He called her baby girl and people lost their minds. And I was like, yep. That was great. And it's so funny that I just wanted to wear short sleeves again. I was like,
I know.
Fuck. That's good. And she's like super high on whatever it was she took.
Yeah.
She did it. I think that was good. And then catching her with the girl that when he walks in and she's giving her the tattoo.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. Cat? Yeah, it's Cat.
Oh yeah, Cat.
She's mentioned in the game, but you never meet her.
Right.
So like again, another attention to detail thing. It's like, oh, this is how her she had a short fling or a relationship with Kat, and this is us meeting Kat for the first time, or probably last time or whatever.
Yeah.
But she's an artist, and she's the one who gave her the tattoo, and I was like, that was really cool to see.
Yeah. I loved the on her way out. She's like, it's gonna look a lot better later. He's like, get out. Like,
get out of here.
But I love the quick stop on the way out, like, no, it'll look a lot better eventually, like, and he's like, I literally couldn't give a shit, like.
Yeah, that was like Joel at peak dad mode. It was great.
Yeah.
I also it's also, it was nice to see them kind of address the like sexuality thing and how he was kind of
even he struggled with it a bit.
Yeah, he struggled. He didn't quite know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And then later on, he kind of suggests that he thinks that she's crushing on Jesse, and she's like, he's like, I know, I see how you look at him, and he's
right.
Like, I don't think you do.
Yeah,
that was really nice. But like, but then you kind of you put the pieces, like this kind of speaks to like the game too, and how like talking about the pieces fitting into each other. Like you remember things that came before, so you remember how he reacted to. You remember how he feels about Dina at the beginning of the season. Like he's very close to Dina. You remember how he came to her defense when Seth was being a bigot, and
right?
Stuff. And it's like he clearly, when he realized his mistake, he was nothing but supportive,
right?
So, but like they don't tell you these things in like chronological order, and it's kind of neat to like feel those things kind of like fall into place, organically,
right? Absolutely. Jill brings down the guitar for one of her birthdays, and she asks him to play her a song. And this is when he plays "If I Ever Were to Lose You" for like the whole song for the first time.
That was good. That was also
man,
Pedro Pascal singing.
That's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and awesome. Her response is so like just like, well, that didn't suck.
Yeah,
which
that
I think is
suck.
in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I can't remember. But just a fantastic scene. It had me tearing up, and
this whole episode wrecked me.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite episode of the season. It was so good. I wouldn't be surprised if it was most people's favorite.
Yeah, I mean, this does feel like the Billstown episode in a lot of ways. It's the episode I think a lot of people are gonna, between episode 2 and episode 6. I think those are the two that people are gonna kind of like remember the most from the season. It's the the battle and Joel's death and the flashback where you get a bunch of Joel.
Right.
Which makes sense.
Then we get the museum scene. I love the banter. You were just talking about, him being like, I see the way you look at Jesse, like all that kind of banter, before they get to the museum. It just really felt like when you're in that scene and you're walking towards the museum, the kind of things that they're just like saying to each other while they walk, it very much had that same feel.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was, I don't think it was like the exact dialogue from the game or anything, but it very much felt like it.
Yeah, they captured the essence of that scene, which is, I think, all that matters. I did find it strange because the museum scene basically in the show consists solely of the dinosaur, which is great. You can't take the dinosaur out. The whole he's taking her to see a dinosaur thing is incredible.
Yeah.
And then it skips basically straight to the space capsule.
Yeah.
But in the game, you're exploring the entire museum and throwing your hat on the dinosaurs, and it's great. And they filmed some of that. If you watch the like post episode thing, you can see them, like there's set photos of them like in the museum with the dinosaur bones and everything, but you never see it in the show. So they cut it for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know what goes into making these decisions, or if it just felt like it didn't add enough to the actual episode, or if it was something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
They cut it out, but that's fine because the important thing is the space capsule.
Yeah. Did you know that they also filmed the Owen and Mel death scene game accurate, and then they changed it?
They did.
They have the game accurate version, and then Craig Mazin changed it.
I wonder if that's going to be like in deleted scenes.
I'm sure it will be. Yeah.
I hope they do that, because I would love to see more of the museum stuff, just to kind of see what they cut.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It was probably because this was a pretty packed episode.
Did he? Yeah, it was a super packed episode. Like, how do you fit all of that into it? Yeah. I totally understand why they skipped past, looking at the dinosaurs and stuff. Do you remember on their way into the museum, did he like push her in the water and she like had to swim?
In the show or in the game?
In the show, because they do it. That's what they do in the game, right?
They didn't do it in the show. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really touching stuff in the game in that moment. That's a very large set piece in the game that has been boiled down to its most basic, important components in the show, which is fine because at the end of the day, they got the important stuff. The space capsule scene was perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Can we at least agree on that? It was perfect.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Before we get to that, I loved her saying she like climbs up the dinosaur. She's standing at the top of it, and she's so focused on the dinosaur, she turns around and she says, "Joel, there's a museum."
He said, "Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. If you don't get off the goddamn T-Rex, I'll take you there." That's the banter. The banter is so good.
Great moment. Yeah. So let's see.
Best birthday gift ever. Like, this is just like it's one of those things that's like, man, I could never do anything this creative, but like, holy shit, the thought that must have gone into this, and like,
I know.
Also, and this is very intentional in the game. They never explain how he found the cassette recording of the space thing, but like, you would have to assume that he went to the end of the earth to fucking find that.
Yeah. Well, he says he's like, that took a very, very, very long time to track down.
Yeah.
And it's like,
the funny thing is, like, in reality, it's like, actually, I just found it.
Sure.
Like I went in somewhere looking for ammo, and I found I found this thing. I was like, oh, what's this? And it turns out.
Yep.
But you don't know. You don't tell you.
Yeah, they don't tell us.
He's gonna spin it obviously as though he like went to the end of the earth to find it.
Yeah, best dad of the year ever. Yeah. So they go in there, and he opens up the shuttle, and he's like, you need a helmet, and he hands her a rock, which I don't think he does in the game. I think in the game they're just on the shelf.
Yeah.
And so he like hands her a rock. I thought that was
she
good.
Gets to pick out her helmet.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, she's like in like a menu screen where she's picking her outfit or something. It's
yeah.
Kind of fun. Yeah, and then she's sitting in the capsule, and he plays the recording for her, and she has this she just closes her eyes and tries to imagine going into space, which again, they've been doing this since season 1, just the constant kind of like dropping hints that she like is really fascinated by space. And and you know, it's one of those things, it's one of those little details that you kind of like, I had this feeling when I played the game where it's like, oh yeah, I know Ellie likes space, but like I never thought there was going to be payoff for that, really. It just felt like it was something to add character
to her character.
And this moment makes all of that, the little hints dropping and everything, so worth it. And you know, he's like, did I do all right? And she's like, fucking kidding me? And I was like, it's so good.
So good. I loved it. There was a weird thing at the end of the scene when something, I forget what he says, but something that makes her think of the fireflies or that whole situation.
She literally sees fireflies, like they're walking back and she sees the, like actual fireflies glowing.
Is that what it was? Because I was the camera panned over to like this stump, and I'm like, what's up with this stump? Why is it
you were focusing too hard on the stump. You were supposed to be looking at the fireflies.
Yeah, I didn't see them at all.
That's funny. That's funny.
So that's funny. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about the tattoo. She wants to move out, and so she like makes the garage her bedroom, which I don't think I ever realized in the game. In the game, is the garage of his house where her little apartment is?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. I don't think
they
never
really talk
that.
About what when I don't think they ever really talk about her moving out. This is just another one of those.
Yeah, just added. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was nice to kind of see them like tying the stuff together. Like she sees the fireflies, and even at her like happiest moment, she sees the fireflies and then remembers that she's very suspicious of Joel and thinks that he's done something terrible.
Right.
And then fast forward a year, and she's like, "I'm ready to move out," and it's like, "Ah, shit, it's falling apart."
Yeah. She's and he even says, you know, they go through a bunch of back and forth stuff, and he relents and says, you know what, you're becoming your own person, and you know, maybe you should move into the garage or whatever.
Dude, I think at that point he was just like he was struggling for air. He was just like, I will just do whatever done. I need to do to make you happy and hopefully forget.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like he knows that she's starting to suspect, or she already knows, and he's just he's not going to give her any pushback. He's just going to do whatever he can to be in her good graces, because he can feel her slipping away.
Yeah.
Hard to watch.
I forget who says it, but somebody said that a moth symbolizes death.
It's Gale.
Gale, yeah, because he's like, yeah, a moth, like new growth or new like rebirth or whatever. And she's like, no, that's a butterfly. She's like, a moth symbolizes death.
I did not know this, but actually, now that I think about it, that makes the Mothman prophecies make way more sense.
So I don't know what are the Mothman prophecies.
You've never heard of the Mothman? Oh, this is a whole separate discussion. Maybe I should get into it. But if you haven't, you should go watch the Mothman prophecies. It's a great movie.
Is it a movie?
It's a movie, but I mean, it's okay. And maybe great is pushing it. I have fond memories of it, but it's about an I don't know what you'd call it, old wives' tale or urban legend.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Bigfoot. Like it's one of those things people claim they see this creature appear, and it's described as this like 8-foot tall moth-like creature with glowing eyes, and apparently it appears to people in just before a major tragedy occurs. Like people like talk about apparently people saw the Mothman before September 11th, or the movie talks about is about this town that just before this like huge accident that like where like a bunch of people died.
Oh, okay.
This thing starts showing up and people are freaking out. I do recommend it. It's a good movie, but like
okay.
Now I'm thinking about like what's the significance of the moth? And he's showing up before a bunch of people die, and I'm like, oh shit.
Because it symbolizes
maybe moths
death.
do mean death.
Right. Oh, that's funny.
Dang.
Because I was thinking that too, like oh yeah, a moth, that would like symbolize like rebirth or whatever, and then for Gale to say that it actually symbolizes death, I was like, oh dang.
Yeah, you can see the color drain out of his face when she says that. It's like, oh shit, it's bad.
So Joel and Ellie go on their first patrol, and before this, I love that Ellie was like practicing going down her list of questions about Salt Lake City and just being like, okay, I'm going to ask this, and I'm going to ask this, and I'm not going to let him give me any other answer. Like, I need a straight answer, and going through all that. And then Joel is like, they're on the road, and Joel's like trying to teach her the ropes, and all of a sudden she goes, oh shit! He says, what? She says, there's a little squirrel fucking a big squirrel.
I forgot about that.
That's great.
It's like every once in a while she reminds you that she's just a kid.
Right.
At the end of the day, which is nice.
Yeah.
But this is all like leading up to something that we never got to see. In the game. Or I mean, it probably didn't even happen the way it happens in the show. In the game, we get to see the whole story that happens with
Gale's husband.
Which, why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden?
I don't have his name down either. I didn't write it down. I know.
I'll find it. It's on the tip of my tongue.
So Ellie wants to take him back to Jackson. Because all he wants to do is get to the gate. Gene, yes.
Eugene.
Okay. And so he just wants to go to the gate to like say goodbye to his wife. And Joel, this is the moment where I'm like, I kind of feel like they're trying to make the audience feel really mixed about Joel.
I think they're trying to. They used this whole thing, I think, really smartly to explain why Ellie is so upset, why she's not on good terms with Joel, and it's because she realized this is the moment where she knows first, like up until this point, as far as Salt Lake City goes, she really only has suspicions.
Right.
She has theories, and she doesn't really know whether she should actually be mad at him or whether she's just like having she's wishy-washy, and she's like, I don't know what actually happened.
Right.
But this is the moment where she finds out for sure, because Eugene has been bitten. He wants to go back to Jackson before they put him down so he can say goodbye to his wife.
And Pedro says, I promise. He's like, I promise I won't.
Pedro swears to her that they will do that. And Ellie even like does this, she's like, stick out your hand, and I forgot what she asked him to do. Stick out your hand and say I don't remember what she tests his like mental capacity to see if he's like still within, he still has his,
she asked him to stick out his hand for 20 seconds to see if it shakes.
And it's not shaking. So like she realizes they still have time.
Yeah.
And Joel says, okay, I'll stay with him. You go back, get the horses, bring him back here, and we'll go back to Jackson.
Yeah.
And as soon as she's out of earshot, he leads Eugene to a cliffside.
Yeah.
And basically says, I'm sorry. This was really
fucked.
It's super fucked. And he thinks, he's like, oh, don't worry. I'll tell your wife what you wanted to tell her. I'll pass the message on, which, I mean, obviously he intends to do that.
Yeah.
But then he's like, I don't need to tell her anything. I just wanted to hear what she wanted. I wanted to hear her words to me. And and like in that moment, he's like, well, I clearly can't do that, but he's not going to back down, and he shoots him. Great moment. This was just a nice, like.
But why? But why did Joel tell Ellie, like, why didn't he just be like, nope, we can't do it, and like hold his ground? Why did he do this whole I promise I won't kill him
thing? He's
thing?
Obsessed with protecting her. Like he thinks he's doing her a solid. He thinks he's like, it's one of those things. It's like, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than beg for permission situations. And he's like, she's never going to go along with this.
Yeah.
She's never going to understand. I have to be the adult here. I have to make the hard decision. She'll forgive me.
Yeah.
And that may be true that she would forgive him, but what he inadvertently did was show her how willing he is to lie to her face.
Right. Yeah.
And so he shoots him. They go back to Jackson, and Joel has to tell Gale what happened. And he's like trying to sugarcoat it because obviously he doesn't want to hurt her. He just wants to just like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then Ellie's just like,
Ellie's
no, fuck
like,
that
nope.
Shit. And I was like, this is brutal.
Yep.
Like, she's just so like, good. Oh, by the way, Joel's a dick, and he wanted to come back and have one moment with you, and Joel shot him instead.
Yeah.
And just like, and that's when Joel realizes he's fucked up, and he realizes she knows.
Yeah.
And I just thought that whole thing, like, none of that happened in the game.
No, yeah.
And it was just it's like one of the, like, I didn't see this coming like at all. And it added so much, like, because the next thing that happens that we really get to see is, the porch scene.
Yeah.
And it adds so much, like, it explains the whole situation with Gale when he's having his like therapy session with her at the beginning, and you at that point you really kind of get the feel for like where Ellie was when the whole thing happened the night before he died, and it all builds up to this moment on the porch which we didn't know existed. And this is maybe the biggest like shift from the game to the show. Talking about things that they kept in the game but moved, like
the
moving
porch
pieces
scene
around. Yeah, the porch scene in the game happens at the very end, like after Abby.
Yeah.
And I know why they did that, because
they needed it now, though. They needed it now.
They needed people to like understand what was going on. They didn't want to leave people hanging on that for 2 years,
right?
Or more, probably, because it would have been, if they had kept it where it would have been at the end of season 3,
right?
And at that point it would have been like, well, fuck,
way too
what
late.
happened?
Yeah, way too late.
So, and that scene was just
so incredible.
Such an incredible scene.
And I think it was probably the best acting that we've seen from both Pedro and Bella. Like, it was incredible. 100%. And I love
Pedro went hard. Like, I was weeping. I was like, this is so good, but it hurts. I mean, it hurts so good. Like, this is such tremendous acting. I think Bella Ramsey did a fantastic job as well, but man, Pedro Pascal knocked it out of the park when he's like,
so good.
He's explaining to her that like, I did all of this stuff because I love you, and you'll never understand. You may never understand how much I love you.
Yeah.
And then to bring it back full circle with, but if it is ever your turn, I hope you understand, and I hope you do better than I did.
Yes.
Oh God, full circle moment.
So
beautiful.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Oh my God.
So good. Yeah.
Love it. It's incredible. I want to go rewatch that scene now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fantastic. I loved just the moment where, and I can't remember how it plays out in the game. It's been so long since I've been that far into the second game, but she's like asking him questions, and all he can do is either shake his head or nod.
Yeah.
And like, he doesn't have the words to like speak up. And
he's gasping, he's clinging to life right there.
Yeah.
He's like, please hear what I'm saying, and like, just understand that, And then Bella's line, or Ellie's line, where she says, I don't know if I can forgive you for this.
Yeah.
But I would really like the opportunity to try. And I was like,
right.
And I think that's more or less what she said in the game.
Yeah.
But like, it fills that gap in immediately, where you think back to the first couple episodes where she has the fallout with Joel at the, over Seth, the big thing. And then the next morning she's like, I just want to go on patrol with Joel. And you're like,
what?
And then she's trying to tell everybody, it's fine, we're cool. It's just Joel and I have a thing. Don't worry about us.
Yeah.
And And I'm sure a lot of people were like, huh? And this is meant to kind of like fill that in.
Right. And I wonder what would have happened eventually had Joel lived. Like, I wonder what would have happened to their relationship. Would she eventually kind of get over it, or would they work through it, or
I think so. I mean, it's one of those things, like, time heals. I mean, there might also that I feel like that might always be there. Yeah. It might always be looming and everything, but I feel like eventually she would reach a point in her life where she would be faced with like she becoming a parent. Like, assuming everything kept going the way it would have gone and he'd stayed alive, Dina would probably still be pregnant. She'd probably still end up with Dina, and then she'd have a child of her own, so to speak. And she would start to understand.
Right.
And I think that's the implication. And the story that they tell in the game and the show is she is on this rampage, this vengeful rampage, because she is robbed of knowing if they ever got to like truly over it.
Right.
Yeah. And that's
the tragedy.
That's the tragedy. And that's why I love it.
Yeah.
Even if the approaches are different.
Right.
Slightly. Or slightly in some cases, maybe majorly in others.
Yeah.
But
so good.
And that brings us to the finale, which we've talked some about.
Already. One more quick thing, real fast. So Pedro or Joel confirms in this scene that there would have been a cure. She's like, would they have been able to make a cure? Yeah, she asks him. She says, would they have been able to make a cure if they had like killed me and taken whatever they needed from me? And he says yes. And it's never confirmed in the game. And I always thought that it was left ambiguous.
There's like in the scene when he says yes, I think this is a couple things. Because first of all, Joel doesn't fucking know.
Yeah.
Joel has no fucking clue. But I think in this moment, he knows the possibility existed.
Right.
And even if the possibility existed, he turned that light off. He closed that door entirely. So as far as he's concerned, the answer is yes. They maybe could have done it, and I stopped them.
Sure.
There's been a lot of talk in the news right now because Neil Druckmann in an interview says that his interpretation as the writer of the game and the story is that yes, they would have been able to make a cure, which flies in the face of the ambiguous thing that you just mentioned. But if you ask me, people are flipping out over this, and I'm like,
really?
People, because they're like, oh, that ruins everything. It's like, bro, he just has an opinion. I mean, he wrote the thing, but like, it wasn't on screen. It was never expressly said in the game.
Yeah.
You could, if you think about what Joel actually knows in the show, it still hasn't been expressly said. Like, they asked a dude who happens to be, intrinsically tied to the game, if they could have made a cure, and he said yes.
Yeah.
But it's like, unless it's on the screen, who gives a shit? Like, if you don't want to believe they could have made a cure, or if you feel like that you don't want to know, you still don't fucking know. That is not what happened. So I just see a lot of people freaking out about that, and it makes me laugh. It's just like, guys, he just answered. Someone asked him a question, and he answered it, and you're taking it to mean like be all end all of the lore or whatever. And I think it's weird. He's also not the only writer on the show. Like, I bet if you asked the other co-writers on the thing, they'd be like, I don't know, would they? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting. So, I thought that was interesting. I certainly wasn't up in arms about it or anything, but I had always taken the first game to mean that it was pretty like 50-50 or maybe less than 50-50 chance. Like,
it is definitely left ambiguous in the show. And I think that's
in the game.
A lot of in the game. I mean, in all of it really, but like when you think about it, Joel's decision at the end of the first game is ultimately made not just because he doesn't want to let Ellie die. He doesn't want to let Ellie die, especially if it's not a guarantee.
Right.
He's like, yeah, he's like, you want to kill her and you can't even tell me for certain if it's going to work. Fuck that.
Right.
So yeah, that, and honestly, like the debate as to whether Joel made the right decision, I think is a far more interesting, like long-term debate than whether or not they would have actually been able to make a cure, because you know, that was the goal. So like, you got to assume, like, if they were going to go as far as to kill someone, they probably had they were probably somewhat confident that they could have made a cure.
Right.
So,
right. Okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Finale time. We've talked about most of the finale at this point. But you and I had thought that maybe this would be like a 2-hour episode.
Yeah, I was surprised. It was only 50 minutes. The entire time, my wife and I were like, how are they going to get through all this in 50? Because like, at this point, we knew where it was going to end. I was like, this is going to end with Abby storming into the theater and shooting at Ellie, and that's going to be it. You know, and the entire time we're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's like, my wife was about to pick up the controller and like hit the button to see like how much was left. I was like, don't. Yep. I don't want to think. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to feel a ticking clock. Like because like that's what I feel like. There's a ticking clock here, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
So yeah, they cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And they take a really not bizarre. I mean, they take an interesting, if unnecessary, detour in this episode.
What was that?
She gets on the boat to go to the aquarium, and then she gets swept away in the waves and ends up on Seraphite Island for like 5 minutes.
What was that?
So apparently, when they were developing the original game, there was a whole segment where that happened. Where on the way to the aquarium, she ends up accidentally on the island as the battle is breaking out. And
is that where
they cut it?
Is that where Abby is at that same time?
Yeah. Abby's on the island. Is on the island when it happens.
Right.
And I don't know if they're passive or crossed or how in depth that sequence was in the game, but they ultimately cut it.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I mean, I think part of it has to do with they wanted to tie the Isaac thing together and like bring the Seraphites back for something in this final episode to kind of like illustrate that there's this kind of like this battle is happening, because like you get the feel that something big is happening, but you don't really know what it is. So they probably wanted you to see the Seraphites and see the island and kind of see.
They wanted you to make the connection later on, and for anybody who's like new to The Last of Us that hasn't played the game, you know, Nick alluded to it earlier, is that there's a lot of things that you see as Ellie that you later see when you're in the POV of Abby, and they're these cool little connections and stuff. And this, and
they almost like sometimes they're like near misses, like they
just barely missed each other. Yeah. And so when Ellie gets taken to this island, if it were to have happened in the game, and I'm sure it's the same in the show, Abby is currently there. Not to spoil too much, but currently they're fighting her way through, you know, hundreds of Seraphites.
And WLF.
And WLF.
Maybe that's too much of a spoiler. I saw. She is in over her head.
Yeah, she's got her hands full.
Is coming at her from all angles at this point. And yeah, so you're seeing the beginning of that. But in the show, in the episode, especially since it's the shorter episode,
because they run away because all that's happening, right?
Yeah, they hear the bombs start going off.
Yeah,
and that's when they're like, oh, they're about to hang Ellie and then gut her like they did the guy in the park. And then they're like, oh shit,
could you imagine?
Village. Oh no!
Like if that's just how Ellie ends.
For a second, I thought they were like, "Oh my god, this is the thing we've been waiting." Like this is the thing, the dramatic change. Like they're not going to end it the way they get. I thought this was like the finale was going to take place.
The finale.
Yeah, I was like, this is like they're just They're like going off the, off.
Wouldn't that be insane? Oh my god!
But then they very quickly divert back. They send they leave her because they hear the explosions, and then she ends up taking the boat, getting back in it, and then making her way to the aquarium. It just ends up feeling it's kind of like a rushed side thing. I get why they did it, but I don't know. It just feels like they were trying to cram a lot into an hour-long episode. Like I feel like they could have taken their time, but I don't know how these decisions are made. I don't know what plays into it, but it is what it is.
Yep.
And she does eventually end up at the aquarium.
Yep. So it went up to Joel just to go home.
And we talked about what happens with Mel and Owen, which is a big change.
Yeah. And we, real quick, we get the moment where Jesse guesses that Dina's pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
And she like tells him, she goes, "Oh shit, you were guessing?" Like, it's just a great line delivery there. I thought that was super funny.
Yeah, and this is just like, and that whole scene just kind of, it made me love Jesse even more.
Yeah.
Man, Jesse's great. I feel like I'm crushing really hard on Jesse.
Oh yeah, same.
He's such a great character, and he's just such a likable character, and he's kind of the antithesis of Ellie, just in terms of like, he is calculated and smart, and I'm not saying Ellie's not smart, but like in a different way. Yeah, he's all about community and doing what's right for the community, and Ellie is very kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? She's impulsive and reactionary, and she has this like intense sense of like justice. That was the whole point of the scene where they see the WLF corner that Seraphite in the alley, and she's like, I'm gonna go fuck these guys up, and Jesse's like, you are not, because we are outnumbered, and I'm sorry, but I care more about getting all of us and Dina and my unborn child back to Jackson.
Right. Well, Ellie has a great line when they get to that fork in the road just right after that, where he says something about community, and she's like, "Community? Really? Yeah. Everything you do is for the community, you fucking hypocrite. You let a child die today because he wasn't in your community? Guess what? My community was beaten to death in front of me while I had to fucking watch. So don't pretend you'd do anything different if you were in my shoes, because you fucking wouldn't." And it just such a great, such a good monologue. I was like, oh,
that little monologue is so well written, because it encapsulates, it shows her frame of mind.
Yeah.
It says a lot about Jesse, but it also speaks to like, Jesse has this sense of like, he feels like he's doing, I mean, everyone feels like they're doing what's right.
Right.
Jesse has a very different sense of what's right. And she points out to him that if the tables were turned, if the circumstances were just a little bit different, he would be doing the exact fucking same thing that she's doing.
Yep.
And she's right. And he knows that she's right.
Yeah.
Which kind of circles back around later when they're in the theater, when they make it back to the theater later.
Yeah.
And Jesse finally kind of comes around on her a little bit, and is like, basically tells her, you know, I'm mad, but I understand what's going on. I understand why you're doing what you're doing, because if I was in trouble, I know you would burn this city to the ground to save me. And she is like, I would.
Yeah.
I would. And it's like, you know, they both would for each other.
Yep.
And it's just, it's like, it's not black and white. There's so much
gray
nuance to that. And it's like, these things aren't easy. I understand why he's mad. I understand why she's upset. I understand why those things aren't a good combination right now. But I fucking understand where everybody is coming from. I do think Ellie needs to rein it in a little bit. But you know, I think that was maybe one of my favorite bits of dialogue from the finale, for sure.
That was fantastic. She drops into the aquarium, and the first thing she finds is a workbench. And you can see her like messing with her gun and like loading it up with ammo and stuff. And I'm like, they've done that a couple times this season where she's at a literal workbench.
Yeah, they do like a lot of really clever like nods to gameplay mechanics. In fact, I didn't realize when we were talking about, I think episode 4, where they were in the subway and the horde came through the subway or whatever. And you had originally missed it. I don't know if you went back and watched it. I told you about Dina doing the thing where she's listening to the clickers and she's counting them on her hands.
Oh yeah, I should have done that.
You should go back and watch that. She's literally using the like listening mode from the game.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, someone pointed that out to me, and I was like, that's actually really fucking clever.
Yeah. That's so clever.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. So Ellie, she gets into the room with Joel and Mel, and she does the thing. She's like, you have to you have to point to the map.
She's trying to be Joel, like
she's trying to be Joel. She's trying to do it, and I can't remember if that was in the game where she told them.
It is.
It is? Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. Because I loved that moment where she's like, you point to the map, and then you point to the map, and it's like, yep, she's trying to be a mini Joel. She's trying to do it.
This is where the fork in the road for the show and the game, because in the game she basically, once she kind of has what she's looking for and things start to go sideways, she just like fucking shoots them.
So
I think she accidentally shoots Owen, or is it she actually? Again, I'm playing.
She accidentally shoots Mel. She means to shoot Owen in the game,
but she ends up shooting Mel. And then after that, she shoots Owen. I can't remember the order of operations here, but the point is, it goes wrong in both situations, but in this one, it feels a lot more like
accidental.
It feels more accidental, and she has a much more visceral response in the show. But she doesn't in the game. She's just kind of like, well. You can tell she's like, oh my god, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
But I got to keep moving.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm still going after Abby.
Right.
And in the show, she's like having a breakdown. And this girl's like in her dying breaths telling her to cut a child out of her stomach. And I sat here thinking it because they talk about this a lot on the podcast. I'm sitting here thinking about like, if I were in that situation and somebody told me, it's like my instinct would be like, yeah, if there's a chance, I'll do it. But at the same time, if just the logistics of like having to cut somebody open and dig out a child, and I have no medical knowledge at all. It's just, and they, Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin both made a really interesting point, because a lot of people were kind of up in arms about this, and then they were just like, how she's just kind of like this turns into this like she just becomes a mess, and she fails. She's about to try, and she's like, I can't do this, and she stops.
Right.
And they make a great point, because a lot of people are upset about it, and it's like, I think a lot of people like to say what they would do in a situation, but a lot of people don't stop to think about, if I were actually in that situation, would I have it in me to do that?
Yeah.
And most people probably wouldn't, even if their brain is saying like, you need to do this to save this child. Being able to like get your hands to actually do the motions to like do the thing.
Right.
Most people wouldn't be able to do it. And that's more or less what happens here. Interesting choice. Creative choice.
I think because she's not asked to do that in the game, right?
No,
okay,
yeah, definitely.
It's just like there was a child in there. Yeah, I think my biggest issue with the scene is that it turns it into this like, oh, whoops, I shot you kind of accident.
Yeah.
Whereas in the game, it's like very calculated and there's
she's a little more murdery in
there's a disparity between the two Ellies that we now know.
Yeah.
And I wish they had really stuck to their guns and made her super cold and super like on a revenge. And because the whole point of it is that when you get to the end of the game, and I'm not gonna spoil it for people, but when you get to the end of the game and everything, that final scene walking into the woods after the house is empty, there's a way that makes you feel, because it's like sorry. Oh, sorry.
my cat.
Oh, the cat's got to get out or get in.
She wants to get in.
Oh, okay.
She was like scratching at the door. She's like desperately, let me the fuck in.
No, it's okay. I'm sure that door is shredded.
Yeah. It is.
But there's something that you feel in that moment as the player, where it's like, you want her to have a happy ending, but everything she's done has led up to this point. Like she deserves that ending. And in the show, I'm not quite getting that.
They're not there yet. They have to go further now in the show than they did.
Yeah.
From this point forward, they're going to have to really ratchet it up to get it to the point where
and
you feel that maybe for her at the very end.
And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're like ramping you up slowly to get to that point, and then season 3 will be like unhinged Ellie. And
by the way, I don't know if you
really
saw
hope
this, but Craig Mazin, I don't know. Again, this is Craig. This is according to Craig Mazin. I don't know if HBO has anything to say about this or what, but he is saying at this point he is confident that they will have to do a 4th season to finish the story.
No, okay, yeah, I could see that. I could see that because season 3 would be Abby's.
Yeah, which to me, I wouldn't be surprised if season 4 is like 5 episodes and it's just the Santa Barbara stuff.
Yeah,
which they'll have to kind of expand.
Because once you catch up with Abby's story and it gets to that, what we just saw in the finale, there's still. I wouldn't say quite a bit of game left, but there's a fair amount of game.
There's a fair chunk of game left.
Yeah.
So yeah, take that how you will. Like I said, I imagine the 4th season, if they end up doing a 4th season, will be even shorter than this. But whatever is necessary to fully tell the story is fine. And I think people, if people stick through it to the end of season 3, it won't feel as dire waiting for season 4 as it does from season 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Because it'll leave you in a place where it feels more like conclusive, but like, there's more coming. This just feels like I haven't seen the whole picture yet.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of, yeah.
I mean, let's say it. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. And I was expecting to be a little bit frustrated. And so in that sense, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But, fuck, man, I wasn't expecting to say season 3 coming in 2027. I was like,
is that what it said? Is that what it said?
They're saying filming in 2026, coming probably early, like probably around this time period for 2000.
Filming in 2026? Why not film now?
I mean, if you ask me, it has to do with all the prep that has to go into like sets and makeup and writing and logistics for the actors. It's so many moving parts.
So much of it has got to be green screen, though.
Yeah, I mean, like even Craig Mazin talked about. He's like, I fucking love this. He's like, I love this game so much, but like now that I'm like actively making the show, I was replaying the game and I got to this point and I remember it. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I remember, fuck, I have to make this.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck am I going to make this? Like the stadium, they have to just find a stadium. Like you see a glimpse of the stadium, but that was probably green screen.
Yeah.
At the end of the season, but like they have to find an actual stadium that they can use.
I was wondering, like, how are they filming in Seattle?
No, they're filming in Canada.
Okay, because they were in. I had a note on it somewhere.
Like establishing shots, I would imagine, but like.
Well, they were in like I forget what it was, but it was like a well-known Seattle library or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked just like it. And I was like, how? I'm like, did they actually film there and like make the place look all apocalyptic, or how did they do that?
I think all of it's just finding scouting locations in I forgot which part of Canada they're in.
Yeah.
But it's just good scouting locations and that they can do with what they want.
Yeah.
They can make everything look that way. I mean, that all obviously comes down to like the crew and everybody.
Well, how beautiful was that final shot? I know it was probably all CGI, but it was so cool to see her step out, and it's the WLF stadium.
Yeah.
And I think they were saying in the after the episode thing, the audience isn't, at least the new audience isn't really aware of how big the WLF is. Like, you've only seen them in these small groups, and then she steps out and it's like, this is the WLF. It's like a fucking army. Like, it is this huge,
it's a big operation
thing. Like,
it is a big operation.
Oh, I lost you. I lost your microphone.
Can't hear me? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I can't hear you. Let me reset my microphone and.
Hello. Hello.
Might be me.
Testing.
Oh. Hang on. Sorry.
No, you're good.
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
I like that reference.
So yeah, sorry. What did you say after I said like how expansive it is?
Oh, I just said it's a big operation.
Yeah.
And you finally get the sense of it here. And it's also just, they do this in the game too. It's just it was a nice, I love the like, she steps out, the sun is shining, and then you just see day one. And I was like,
yep. Oh, fuck.
The one thing I'll say about that though is, and it's way more prevalent in the game, because in the game, it hits you with the day one, day two, day three. And they only really did that for the first day. In the show. Like in the show, it just says Seattle day one. It's the episode title is day one, which is why I kind of thought episode 3, 4, and 5 would be day one, or 4, 5, and 7 would be day one, day two, day three, but they went with other titles or whatever. But like they did the day one
in the show. In the show, didn't they do Seattle day 2 and Seattle day 3 like on screen?
Maybe I'm forgetting.
I think they did, but
this is why I
could be wrong. Yeah.
I know they did it for day one. I just don't remember seeing it for day 2 and 3, but that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, it's cool. It makes a lot more sense when that is a kind of like a repetitive element of the presentation, and to see it pop up again, and you see Abby standing there. I was like, I hope that landed. I hope that clicked into place so people kind of understand, like, oh, now we're going to watch what happened during those 3 days from Abby's POV.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people don't know how to feel about that, but it'll make more sense later. We did kind of skip over, well, maybe you're still going to talk about it.
What's that?
The actual like moment where Jesse and Ellie run into the theater.
Oh, we could talk about that, like the actual moment where they're like talking, and he says, "I know you would set the world on fire for me if I was hurt," and then they hear
a scuffle.
Yeah, they hear a scuffle, and then they come running out, and just immediately, like, they open the doors, and he immediately drops. It's like all of a sudden, within a second, Jesse is dead.
One of the most shocking, like, playing the game when that first because it happens the exact same way in the game.
Yeah,
they burst through the door, and Jesse is just boom gone.
Yeah,
and you know, in the show, I'm sitting here watching them run up the aisle, and I'm like, "Don't open the door!
Don't open the door!"
But yeah, I hope that lands, because I mean, I hope people. I imagine a lot of people feel like we do, and that they like Jesse a lot, and so like, but like it's the way they handle it in both the game and the show, I think is really impactful in that, like, there's not a lot of pomp and circumstance. You don't even have time to register what the fuck happens. It's just like he's out like a light. It's just gone.
Yeah.
And they don't spend a lot of time focusing on it, or like, it's just like shit's going down. Jesse is now gone. Ellie has her hands up and is like, "Don't shoot."
Yeah.
And there's Abby standing over Tommy.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. My wife, like, we're watching this, and my wife is like having a panic attack, right? She's played the game. She's like, "Oh my god,
like, if you kill the other brother, I swear to God."
Yeah, it's happening. Like, they could do anything right now. If she could kill Tommy, like, that's not, that doesn't happen in the game, but she could fucking do it.
Has she played the game?
Oh yeah, she's played the game.
Oh, and okay.
So she's having like a panic attack because she knows what's coming, and we've been kind of like collectively dreading this for the whole season, because we know it's coming.
Yeah.
And we had just witnessed Jesse die, and we were both like dreading that. And she's like panicking. She's like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And then she goes, "That her leather jacket looks really cool." Like in the middle of the panic, she's like, "I really like her leather jacket," because I don't think she's wearing that in the game.
No, that's definitely not.
That's a new thing.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was just like took us out of the moment for a second. She's like, "I love her jacket."
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, Caitlin Deaver has style as Abby. I think she looks really good as Abby.
She definitely had that, like, I mean, you obviously got to see her kind of like vicious side in episode 2.
This
was like pure just rage.
Yeah.
And I think she did a really good job. And the line that
Yeah.
she says is exactly the same in the game, where she basically says, "I let you live and you wasted it."
Live. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I love that line. It's so good.
So good.
I'm not. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's another character present in the room in this scene in the game that I presume is present in the show. You just don't get to see them.
Right.
And I was so hoping they were gonna like show us, like they were gonna show this person, and we were gonna be like, "Oh, we at least got to meet them."
Yeah.
I was like, maybe this is how we'll find out who they cast in that role.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. But that person is, I would imagine, I don't think there's any way around it. That person is in the room,
right,
off camera,
right.
But yeah,
so good. Well, that kind of covers everything. No,
I think so. We did kind of skip over just at the beginning of the episode. You get to see Jesse helping Dina get the arrow out of her leg, which I thought was a fun scene. And he offers her the alcohol.
Yeah,
and
she
she's
turns
like, no,
it down.
And he's like, drink it. You're gonna need it. And she's just like, no.
Yeah,
because she's pregnant. And I was like, that was a really clever way for her to unintentionally drop a heavy hint. And that was probably where Jesse was like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
That was probably the first. He was like, well, I got to get this out of Ellie now because she's not going to fucking tell me.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just like that whole thing where she's like freaking out and she's panicking because she's got an arrow in her leg. And he's like, I'm going to push this through your leg. And she's freaking out. And he eventually just goes, Dina, shut the fuck up. And then it just turns to, I've got you. And I was like,
yeah.
Fucking love. Like, you can tell, you can see the history between them.
Yeah.
You can see that he cares about her.
Yeah.
But just it boils over just like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I trust him. I hope you trust him, Dina.
I trust him.
This shit's wild.
So good. So good. Yeah, great casting for Jesse. I don't think I don't know who the actor is necessarily, but
his name is Young, and I don't remember his last name.
Okay.
Young Manzino, I think is his full name.
Okay. I literally don't think that there's a better casting for him.
Yeah.
Like this, he's so on point.
Yep.
Looks the part, sounds the part.
I feel like a lot of people could have been like, "Oh man, Pedro's gone," but like Jesse's pretty cool too. And now Jesse's gone. Like,
I know.
Oh, God, I just can't take it.
I know all the heartthrobs. Yeah.
Hey, one thing you'll get more of in season 3 that I think we can all agree is good. More Isaac, played by Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. You're going to get a lot of him.
Right.
You're going to get a lot of Abby, and I think people will be surprised by Abby.
Yeah, I think I mean even through the second part of Last of Us 2, I still didn't like Abby by the end. But I mean, I don't know, maybe.
But did you understand her?
Yeah, I understood her.
Yeah.
I'm
not implying you didn't understand her, but I'm like, the point is, all that really matters, whether you like her or not, is that by the end of it, when everything comes to a head, you get it.
Yeah.
And I would never want to spoil what happens at the end, but when you get to the very fucking end, and it's time to put up or shut up.
Yeah.
It is. I was like, fuck. I don't even know who I'm rooting for, how I feel. I just feel like a mess. And I think that is what they wanted you to feel.
Right.
And I that's what I hope everybody ends up feeling when they get there in the show. We have a long way to go before we get to that point.
I think I really think that I will like the show Abby more than the game Abby, purely because I love Caitlin Dever, and I think that she's going to do an awesome job as Abby. And I don't know. Hopefully this doesn't sound like super like weird or maybe even like misogynistic or something. But in the game, you're playing Abby, and she's like this big hulking person.
She's a beast.
Yeah, and there is something to be said of like the visuals going along with this horrible thing that you saw her do.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wonder, the show, obviously Caitlin Dever is gorgeous, and so I kind of wonder if that'll help soften people to Abby. I wonder if just the visual alone is enough of a change to get you on Abby's side a little bit more.
I think, I think there's something to that. And, like you said, Abby in the game is very different, and she might be a she might be a tougher pill to swallow for some, as far as like sympathizing with her or whatever. Right. But like, she's certainly a complex character, and and combining that with Caitlin Dever's performance, which is going to be maybe a softer version, like as you said, of Abby. I think it's probably intentional, and I think it's neat. I'm excited at the prospect of seeing a different version of Abby.
A different Abby,
And I don't know which one I'm going to end up, liking or appreciating more when it's all said and done. But that is one of the cool things about doing an adaptation like this, that I think they are jumping on opportunities to change things without changing things in like really earth-shattering, unforgivable ways. Because it still feels, at the end of the day, it still feels like a really faithful adaptation of the games. So it's cool that they had this opportunity to try something new with a character. And for better or worse, we'll see what happens. But it's cool to see them taking shots at some new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, despite, all of my little gripes and complaints and stuff, it is a very, very faithful adaptation. And we don't really get that many of those nowadays.
True.
But, I heard somebody mention, I was listening to something earlier, and they were talking about the Fallout show. And there's been leaks for the new season of that. And
did you watch that? I assume.
Oh yeah. I've seen it multiple times. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I feel like we're living in like a golden age of video game adaptations. But like the Fallout adaptation is like smart and like it's like a smart approach to that material. But
because it's not following the story of one of the games, it's just showing you a story in this world. And I think that was the best way you could have possibly done that.
And to be fair, I would say the story of the games in the Fallout series, not to sound like I'm throwing shade or anything, but like, they're not a
masterpiece of storytelling or anything.
It's the journey. It's for sure the journey in Fallout that makes it such so popular and so exciting.
And I think that's what they do so well in the show, though, too, is because even the overall story of the show doesn't really matter that much. I mean, there's a story there, and we're following a character that we love and stuff, but it's all the random stuff in the middle. Like, remember when she got taken to the store where the two drug addict guys are like taking people's body parts and stuff, like that, like those moments where it's like it seems like a random encounter like you would find in Fallout.
They're just having fun with the universe and it's cool. It's a totally different approach than The Last of Us, but it's the right one. To take with that IP, and that's cool. So and this is weird. This is totally random, but there is a new Silent Hill movie coming out that is supposedly going to be a faithful adaptation of Silent Hill 2, which is one of my favorite games of all time.
Really?
I don't know how much faith I have in it, because it's definitely, I think it's from the same director of the first Silent Hill movie.
Oh, okay.
So take that how you will or whatever. But like, I'm just saying, we're clearly living in a golden age of video game adaptations. So maybe we'll get a good Silent Hill movie. I don't know.
I know they never would, because the series is kind of dead at this point, but give us a Deus Ex game or a movie or a show. A Deus Ex show would be so
I think they're going
sick.
at this point they're working on a new Tomb Raider series.
Yes.
I think Amazon is doing a Tomb Raider.
I saw that. Yeah.
So I think Tomb Raider is their priority as opposed to Deus Ex because it's the same.
I know.
Yeah.
It's the same Eidos.
Yeah. But, I don't disagree. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I would take a Deus Ex show.
Yeah. I'm such a big Deus Ex fan, and it's so
endless
sad
possibilities
to see it go
out there.
The
I'm just glad we're more or less past the point of like feeling like adapting a video game into a movie or a TV show has to like try to bend over backwards to try and remind people that
it's a video game.
Well, I mean, I feel like some are bad because they are trying to avoid. Some are bad because they're trying to avoid the association because they think video games are dumb. Like think about
I see what you're saying.
Like think about the Super Mario movie from the 80s.
Yeah,
where it's like, what the fuck is this?
What is that's a
yeah, and it's like, and it was absolutely like, what the fuck is this?
It's like,
and then there's other ones where it's like they're not willing to diverge from the source material because it has to be faithful.
Yeah,
even though when you think about it, that's just insanely silly. Like the Mortal Kombat movies, or maybe the first one. The first one was actually pretty good, but like,
okay,
it's just like
yeah.
You could have made this a little more palatable for a movie or a TV show,
right?
Instead of trying to make it feel like a fucking video game. It's just like there's a sweet spot, and you got to actually care about the source material and be willing to spend the time, and they put the effort in to find the sweet spot for each individual project.
Nobody fucking agrees with me, but one of my favorite video game adaptations is the Assassin's Creed movie. I think it was fucking good.
I watched that, and I will say, to quote Ellie, that didn't suck.
Yeah.
But I also recognize that it's also maybe not the greatest. But I had a fun time watching it, and I feel like it's definitely not.
I felt like it was accurate.
Yeah, I mean, it does some weird shit, but like it was cool. Like I it was. I was not expecting Michael Fassbender to be the assassin, but whatever. He did good. In fact, I own that movie. I don't know what
circumstances
led
do
me
too.
To own that movie, but I do. Yes, maybe I'll watch that soon.
You should, because I think I don't know. I really don't know what people's complaints about it are necessarily, but if it's about the animus has been different in like every game. Like every game has had a different animus. So I don't have anything against the animus that like lifts you into the sky and you like puppets, act out
puppeteering.
Yeah, I don't mind it really. But yeah, we got a lot of good stuff coming up. I'm of course excited for Tomb Raider. I love Tomb Raider so much.
I forgot who is the new actress they cast her, right? I can't remember who it was.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard this news.
On. I'm pretty sure they.
I know that they got what's her name?
Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones.
Yes, that's right. I did hear that.
She posted on Instagram the other day, and she's
ripped,
buff, and I'm like,
super ripped.
She's definitely in. She's ready for. I mean, I was like, almost certainly she has buffed up to play Lara Croft.
Yeah, that's where I heard it, because I think it was on a Luke Stevens video, and he brought up that image of her in the. She's in like a bikini or something, and she's just like ripped.
I was like, damn.
Yeah, super stoked for that. I think
I found it.
Sophie Turner would be an interesting. I don't think she has the face for Lara Croft, but I'm willing to be convinced. I like Sophie Turner.
I'll be interested to see what she looks like in costume, or in what version of Tomb Raider of Lara Croft are they? Are they adapting one of the like different iterations, or are they trying to find like a sweet spot between classic and like new Tomb Raider, or what? I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see what happens. I hope we find out more about this soon.
I'll tell you what though, Nick. I am so glad that they got Phoebe Waller-Bridge off that project. Like,
really? You don't like Phoebe Waller-Bridge?
And this has nothing to do with like politics or anything, because I know politics always get brought up when people talk about Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Has nothing to do with that. I just think she's a fucking moron.
Oh, really? Okay.
I can't stand the woman.
Oh man. I've always heard. I haven't seen her in a ton of stuff, but there's one show in particular that everyone always tells me to watch.
Fleabag. Fleabag is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always heard.
I'm just like, why would you let her be a director though? Like,
I don't know. I have no comment on that because I don't really know anything about her. Her directing capabilities, but yeah, it's okay to have preferences.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right, well, shall we get out of here? Any last minute Last of Us stuff? We don't get more for 2 years, Nick.
2 years.
We're 2 years away.
We're gonna have like 3 more seasons of Dexter before.
Oh my god, you're gonna have 3 kids. I'm gonna be alone in an apartment.
You never know. You never know what's coming around the bend.
Maybe I'll have 3 kids. I don't know.
Anything could happen. But yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's been fun. It's been exciting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to dissect the show. I'm really eager to see season 3. I think that's going to be. I mean, I think it's important. At the end of the day, I think anyone who's kind of like on the fence, get it if you are. Season 3 is the missing puzzle piece. So
right.
With it.
You know, I know that I had my complaints about season 2, but overall, I don't get it twisted. I loved the season. Like, I had a great time every single episode.
I saw somebody put it really succinctly, and I think I agree with this. Maybe not entirely, but just a really succinct way of putting it was the finale was a good episode, but a bad finale. And I think he's saying it's a bad finale for the reasons we've outlined here, is that it feels like an incomplete thought and maybe a little rushed. But still some great moments and great character work, great everything. I just, we need season 3.
I know. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. It's a great episode, bad finale. I think that's fair. Yeah. Well, Nick, you get about a month and a half break until I drag you kicking and screaming back here for Dexter.
Yeah, you're going to drag me kicking and screaming to talk about Dexter, which I think I've shown you plenty of times. No kicking and screaming required. I will talk people's head off about Dexter if they let me. So
I'm so excited.
Full trailer tomorrow, and let's just say Comic-Con panel tomorrow for Dexter, and they must have something other than just the trailer. The last Comic-Con panel was a big deal. That's where they literally announced Dexter Resurrection that nobody knew existed. They were like, hey, let's show you Original Sin. They showed us their first glimpse of Original Sin. They talked about everything. And then they were like, oh, by the way,
boom.
By the way, we're making another series too. And here's Michael C. Hall. And it was like everyone lost their shit. So I have high hopes for tomorrow. So
fantastic. Do you know what time that's at?
I think in Central Time, I think it's going to be around 7 p.m.
Okay.
So that would be 5 p.m. your time, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the trailer is going to be I don't know if the trailer is going to be available immediately after it airs, or if it's going to be available like an hour after. I don't know, because last time it was, I was literally, John and I from Dexter Daily were like literally just
refreshing.
They weren't screening. You can't watch the panel from anywhere. You just have to
You can't?
No, they're not streaming it. Or maybe they weren't last time. We didn't. They uploaded it afterwards, but as it was happening, we were just refreshing like social media feeds from people who were there and like journalists who were like on site, like dropping like quick feeds of like, here's what's happening. That's how I found out about Resurrection. It was like, holy fucking shit, they just announced a sequel series starring Michael C. Hall, and I was like, I have to read that 3 times. What?
Yeah.
And
like, whoa.
Yeah. So I imagine tomorrow is going to be similar.
So they're not streaming tomorrow.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But it also could be different because it's Comic-Con in Mexico.
Oh.
Yeah, it's CCXP in Mexico. I don't know
What a weird place to reveal your trailer.
I mean, I think it's just because they knew when they were going to launch it, and CCXP was the closest Comic-Con to it, and it's a really just easy way to build hype, especially with such small amount of time between now and the air date. So
interesting. It just seems like such an odd place to reveal.
It's strange, but I just saw a tweet an Instagram post from Scott Reynolds, the longtime executive producer of the show, writer, and he is at a bar in Mexico City. So,
cool.
He's there. They're there. Michael C. Hall is there. It's going to be Michael C. Hall and David Zayas are going to be the two main guests on the panel. I imagine Scott Reynolds and Clyde Phillips, and probably some other surprises. I don't know. It's kind of exciting though.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you'll be hearing from me tomorrow at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, text me with any updates, because God
just gonna
knows.
Be screaming. Ah!
Yeah. It's just a voice memo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. That checks out.
Oh, well, Nick, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you kind of being flexible with my schedule. I know it's
you're flexible with me too. I was originally going to record this like 2 days ago, and I couldn't make it happen.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's totally fair. But I certainly appreciate you staying up a little bit to talk about it and get it out and everything. So thank you so much.
Anytime.
All right, everybody. Well, we are going to wrap it up there. Be sure to check the description. I will make sure right after we stop going live, I will put Nick's links down there so you can check out the 4-Player Podcast or the Dexter Daily if you're into Dexter and you want to read some of his articles over there. What else? We have Twitter, Discord, and Patreon all down there. Patreon helps us pay for StreamYard, which has upped their prices recently, and that really sucks.
No big surprise there. Every service in the world just continues to...
It was like $15 or $20 when we started using it, and now it's like $85. Yeah, it sucks. But yeah, Patreon helps us pay for all of that stuff, and you get to watch our episodes live as we record them. Even if they're not a live stream like this, we make them a live stream for you. You get to watch while we, put it all together and everything. So definitely, that is a huge perk to Patreon, and it just helps us out. You're helping support the channel. So thank you so much. We have a few patrons over there, and they've been fantastic. Thank you to all of you. If you happen to be watching this, thank you guys.
I salute you.
I salute you. All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up. We will see you in about a month and a half for Desert. I almost said Desert Resurrection. We will see you in a month and a half for Dexter Resurrection. There, got it, nailed it. All right, bye, everybody.
Peace.